Hey everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is Tuesday, December 18th, 2023. I am so glad to be back with you. Thanks for watching and thanks for supporting the channel. I always say thank you first so much to everybody who supports the channel. You make it happen, and I'm so thankful, and especially in this Christmas season, if you are somebody who has been watching this channel for a while and decides you might want to become a supporter, that's always appreciated. So I'm going to start with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution, protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence or hatred or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal or medical advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. And so I'm going to just start in here with the news. But I want to start by a couple things. One thing to remember is that we have coming up on Saturday, the 250th anniversary of the Boston Tea Party, right? That was the event that sparked the American Revolution there in Boston. And it was a protest against unlawful taxes without representation. Now it's on mega steroids, what we're living with no representation for the complete stealing of all of our money and assets, which I'll get into, on a global scale happening here in the United States to all of us. And so just remember that and think about 2024 coming up. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Enjoy these holidays, the sacred holidays, and please, I hope that you and your families have a wonderful celebration together. But also remember that, there is a lot to do in 2024. And if you are a New Year's resolution kind of person, I would say, hey, besides my health and the well-being of my family, I need to get busy in helping to save America 2024. This is the critical and crucial year with the election coming up. So you can go to lindellplan.com, find out how you can get involved in your actual counties for saving elections. You can go to precinctstrategy.com, become a committee member, get involved on your town council, whatever it is, because this has to be the time you choose your action for 2024 and become absolutely the harbinger of change in this country that we need. Boston Tea Party 250, right? Just think if Trump is president in 2026, okay, and the incredible celebration we will have for reclaiming America, taking it back from the globalists. So let's get busy, okay? And so let's talk about some other things going on. Oh, I wanted to also just mention, if you're looking for something that you could do with your family, there's a great course on learnwithhillsdale.com, the Genesis story. And it's a lovely way to, talk about what, the biblical principles behind, what we're dealing with our Christian values. Check it out. And also I wanted to mention something that we have to do. I would say priority number one in your New Year's resolution would be over the Christmas break to take part in alerting Congress and Senate that we want to support the Defund Act. This is really critical, really crucial. The Defund Act, I mentioned it in my last video, but I'm going to talk about it again now because it's so important that you need to call your senators, your representatives, and get this work done. And you can also do it through multiple platforms that are also making it very easy. The Defund Act is basically put up by both the House and the Senate. So you get Mike Lee in the Senate, you get Chip Roy, out of Texas in the House, putting up this defund. And what it means is basically removing us from the UN and the WHO. These are so massively important that you just, you can't overstate it. And so the ways to do that are as follows. You want to go to, there's multiple ways to do it. One is, of course, calling 202-225-3121, for the House, 224-3121 for the Senate, and calling them, your specific senator or representative specifically, and saying that you want to support this act. And so what are we supporting? we're supporting what is the disengaging entirely from the UN Debacle Act. Okay, Debacle Act. It's a kind of ridiculous moniker because it becomes defund, but really it means is literally like disencamp, get out of the WHO, get out of the UN. This is huge, and if Trump comes back, he's going to remove us from the WHO and the UN. But we don't have time for that because the pandemic treaty is coming full bore this spring, and we need to support this legislation. So the other ways to do it is you can go to stoptheglobalagenda.com, where they have a whole system of where you can just plug in and send an automatic email. You can edit it however you want, or you can send a phone call, connect you right into the system if you go to stoptheglobalagenda.com, or you can also go to preventgenocide2030.org. These two websites will plug you in straight to how you can connect your representative or senator to tell them you want this supported or they will be turfed out in the next election, that this absolutely has to pass. So you can also go to the billblasterapp.org, billblasterapp.org, and that's another way to get directly to your specific senator or representative. So we need to do this. We need to get out of the WHO, stop the pandemic treaty, get out of the UN and all the crazy, international globalist takeover of this country, while the U.S. has been paying for all of it. And all of the United Nations Secretary Generals, I think there's only been one U.S. Secretary General. They've all been they're all communists, including Alger Hiss from the USA, but it's all, Norway, Germany, Egypt, Ghana, Portugal. These people, all of them are dyed-in-the-wool communists, of course, leading the UN. I'm speaking to the choir there. But, okay, let's get into the meat of the video. I want to talk about several things today, and I think I'm going to just throw this tiny tidbit out there real quick. Warren Buffett has dumped to almost $28 billion in stocks, okay, in this last week. Okay, so Warren Buffett, right, and the Oracle from Omaha, we've got, this situation where they're, as I mentioned in my last video, and Steve Quayle and others, so many others, Peter Schiff, so many people talking about that, the stock market is about to implode, and they are offloading stocks in the Warren Buffett range to almost $29 billion, $28.7 billion. So that's huge. Okay, but now I want to jump into something that is really, it gets into the Internet of Bodies, but it gets into the real reason for the massive, hundreds of billions that went into the infrastructure bill that was passed by Biden in 2021. Now, $2.2 billion of that was supposed to go to charging electric vehicles, setting up charging stations. Not one of those has been built, not one of them deployed. It's never happened. And the reason is this, because what they're really planning to do is set up an internet, it's going to be an induction charging, a dynamic highway system. And so what they're planning to do is put wireless electrical coils underneath the highways, okay, connecting with all of the 5G, 6G, 10G stations that are all along the highways already, causing people to have temporary blindness, heart attacks, total brain fog, cardiac events. Everything while you drive down the highways already is so poisonous electromagnetically. Now they're putting magnetically charged electric coils is the plan for the entire interstate highway system. And in order to travel on it, these will all be toll roads. They plan to turn our our interstate highways into all toll roads because they're going to put these coils underneath the interstates. And so what's happening now, and this is good old Desantis, right? DeSanctimonious, he is, of course, responsible for already like 3,000 square miles of solar farms going into Florida, with the largest electric company there that also operates in California. And what they're planning to do here is in central Florida. Okay, so in the lesser rich areas, shall we say, where they're going to they're saying it's going to help the economy, and it's one of the fastest growing areas in Florida. Well, what they're planning to do from Lake to Orange counties, the beginning of EV charging highways. Okay, so this is to push the electric vehicles, and electric vehicles will be able to ride these highways, and eventually they will say that gas-powered vehicles are not allowed on the interstates or on anywhere intrastate where these dynamic induction charging coils have been planted under the pavement. It's very disturbing when you think of the Internet of Bodies, and you think of how it already, with the injections, they tried to get as many people hooked up into this intra-body nano network, this Internet of Bodies, where we're already pinging the Internet, okay, with everybody's nanoparticles that they have in themselves. They're nanosensors, right? It's all about the sensors that are pinging the cell towers, that you're constantly being pinged inside your body. Well, imagine that riding down the highway, and what that's going to do to a person as far as encasing you in a digital matrix and training your biological functions and your mind to this highway system, okay, that is the Internet of Highways, right? And so let's just get into this. So it's called induction charging, okay, and they're calling it the most sustainable, conservation-minded road in the world, okay, in the entire world. It's incredible. It's sustainable, and it'll be a wireless in-road induction charging. So the Central Florida Expressway Authority, CFX. They're planning to link Highway 27 and State Road 429 to create something new, I think, called State Road 516, where between 2025 and 2027 they'll initially get the slow rollout in 2025, and then the next couple years get it going faster, where they're basically going to put in. Well, by the way, it's going to cost taxpayers $218 million. Okay, for the initial amount, but the total amount will be $534 million, and they don't have the electrical grid to support it. Okay, $534 million just for this one area of a highway that they're going to make a toll road. Okay, and this is not a very large area, but they will make it a toll road immediately and make you pay to drive on it. And when the CBDCs come in and you're driving a gas car on these toll roads, because it's the quickest way to get from here to there, you'll be dinged on your social credit score system. Your social credit score will be dinged as you drive through this toll road, and it automatically records who you are, and you will be dinged for being an awful polluter. Because they did just come out, by the way, with a lovely new study, UN funded, that says that it's human breathing that is really causing the worst of the climate change. Human breathing, okay, is causing massive amounts of carbon dioxide to be breathed out. What? You know, like, oh, you just want to breathe out? Yeah, let's grow some plants, right? Well, I think it's really interesting considering that in Iceland we have this massive volcano just spouting out like huge, hundreds of feet into the sky. Just an incredible lava display in Iceland, setting back decades of climate preventing sustainability there. And yeah, we're getting new Earth built in Iceland, and we're getting carbon, dioxide spewed to green the planet. That's what the volcanoes do. They green the planet, and that's why we love volcanoes, and that's why we love carbon dioxide. And we love this beautiful interface that we have with plants and trees to exchange for oxygen. And that's what they want to take away is our oxygen. And that's the whole point. Getting back to the EV toll road induction charging system. So, okay, this is a revolutionary new service, and electrical coils will be built under the pavement. And this is, the Biden's infrastructure billions going into this, plus Florida taxpayer dollars. And it's a private public partnership with a company called Aspire out of the University of Utah and NRIX, ENRX. And I'll get into Aspire some. I'll get into NRIX later in other videos. But basically, the plan is that they're going to say that, all of delivery systems, it has to be all EV trucks. Elon Musk is building the EV trucks, the semis, right? And they're saying, everybody's been worried about these massive batteries that we have to have. Huge batteries, right? Like Trump makes these jokes in his speeches. Oh, you're going to have a tank, an Abrams tank. It's going to be, they want it to be, sustainable, environmentally sustainable while you go with a tank into war, destroying everything. But the tank should be sustainable. And he says, well, it's going to have this massive, massive battery. And they're saying, no. We're going to make it so that we don't need massive batteries, so that we put this coiled magnetic connecting with the internet wireless underneath our highways. Okay. Zero mention of health risks, zero mention of any human health studies about what this is going to do to people, the harms it's going to have. They're like, no, it's going to be beautiful. We'll make greenways next to the interstates. We're going to make greenways and underpasses for the wildlife, and it'll be lovely, right? And so basically, eventually, they'll ban all gas-powered cars from the interstates and from anywhere where they put these conductive charging coils under the roads. Okay, it'll be for EVs only, and then we know down the road it's going to be only for self-driven EVs, and you're not even allowed to be the driver anymore. You're not allowed to own the vehicle. You'll have to, buy it Uber style if your social credit score says, allows you to, and then we go on from there. So zero health studies, huge turbo illnesses that can come from this. It's already so hard to drive down the 5G highways. If it's that dirty electricity with the magnetic component thrown in there, turbo disease, okay, central nervous system, cancers, blood diseases, cardiovascular problems, old school, like if you had your pacemaker and you want to drive, you're not even supposed to go through the TSA thing, at the airport. Imagine if you're driving down the highway, with the magnetic coils underneath your car, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. And so, okay, in wireless in-road induction charging, Utah State University, this is the Center for what is called Advancing Sustainability Through Powered Infrastructure for Roadway Electrification. Advancing Sustainability Through Powered Infrastructure for Roadway Electrification. Roadway electrification. That's the key phrase there. That's Aspire, and that is that's the University of Utah working with multiple universities, Purdue, University of Colorado, UT at El Paso, University of Auckland in New Zealand, because of course all the elites with their bunkers, as they're trying to kill off all the New Zealanders with massive bad shots, as we've seen in my last few videos, where just the New Zealanders are dropping dead by the tens of thousands from the shots. Clear the way, get the roads electrified for the bunker elite. That is the replacement migration population for New Zealand. But anyway, we need action now to stop this. This is huge. So the coils generate a magnetic field that induces the flow of electricity to the batteries, okay? And if it induces the flow of electricity to the batteries, it's also inducing a flow of electricity to your body, okay? You're already, if you're driving an EV, sitting on a battery that is frying your body, okay? Your testicles if you're a dude, your ovaries if you're a woman, your fertility. It's already a infertility, threat. But now this would be with the magnetic field that is hitting your DNA. We are electrical beings, and our DNA is our electrical antenna. And if it's already being under attack, as we know through all of the biowarfare crud, well, it's also that the people, all the sensors and the smart dust, everything we've been ingesting, already making us ping with the cell towers. That's this on steroids to further degrade our DNA, our cell structure, our mitochondria, hugely attack the central nervous system. And so we need to look into this more about the interbody nano network, the Internet of Bodies, and what this situation of roadway electrification and magnetic field is going to do. And it's going to be catastrophic, people, catastrophic. And so, okay. All right, so yep, the whole entire U.S. interstate highway system. And so they're saying about 5 of every 20 miles would need to have the coils underneath for semis to be fully charged as they traverse the highways. And the basic reality is that we do not have the electrical grid to do it. Okay, they already can't even power electric plants in this country without turning the coal back on, turning the LNG, the natural gas to power these electric facilities. All of the solar and wind is bullshit and baloney. We know this. And so we don't have the grid to even make this happen, but that's their plan, is to make it happen. And so I wanted to just put that out there, and there was basically no opposition to this going forward. There's a bill in Utah to actually take the taxpayers' dollars out of Utah to actually fund this plan in the millions and hundreds of millions. And basically, there's one guy who stood up and said, he's from the Utah Eagle Forum, Whit Cook, and he said, electric transportation supply infrastructure, to have electric transportation supply for the infrastructure is totally vulnerable to enemy cyber attacks and assaults. It's basic and it's true. I mean, they can shut down the grid anytime. If you don't allow gas or gas powered vehicles or gas powered chain supply, the entire network of all of our supply. If it's not gas and it's dependent on electricity and the grid goes down, then obviously we have no chain supply infrastructure, supply chain infrastructure. Okay, so there's that. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. And now I think I'm going to just pivot into something about what's going on. We know that they're trying to move forward with this world war. They just can't get enough of it. And the push now to goad Putin, with this, we're going to put Ukraine into NATO. We're inviting Georgia to join NATO, Moldavia. We're going to have even maybe Bosnia, Herzegovina. They're on the stack, and so all of these countries littered around Russia and Ukraine. They're saying we're gonna invite them into NATO. We're going to goad you. We want this war to keep going because Putin's like, it's over. We won, basically. And Putin's come out in the last couple of days and said, we're not going after NATO countries. We have no desire, contrary to the MSM propaganda, we have no desire to go after any NATO countries. However, if you make all of these surrounding Eastern European countries into NATO countries, that is basically like us having, China, parking their infrastructure, their military right on our Mexico or Canada border. And he's saying, like, we're not after it. We literally have Russians with Russian concerns in Ukraine that we are going to finish this, and we're going to finish it in Ukraine. But what's going on here now is we had, of course, Viktor Orban has tried to stand in between this happening. We have Olaf Scholz out of the chancellor in Germany saying we are going on war footing. We're considering a draft into the military. We are literally basically saying Germany is preparing for war with Russia. We have Poland then coming in with the new prime minister that got selected by the World Economic Forum. It's really dodgy how he got in, and that's Donald Tusk, who already has been prime minister of Poland 2 terms previous. And it was squirrely how he got in this time. And I'm going to talk about Donald Tusk here for a little bit and get into him, because he's basically saying that he promises that Poland will ensure that all of the West gets behind Ukraine, and that he's prepared to go on war footing as well. And so Poland is right there, right? And there's, basically Poland has just been staving off this Ukraine thing, because they have a massive amounts of farmers and exports of farming out of Poland. They're trying to protect their farms. They're trying to protect, what's going on. Basically Ukraine has been wanting to export tons of their grain out through Poland and Romania, and it's been a huge deal. Well, they solved that recently by getting Donald Tusk in, and this is who we're going to talk about now. So Donald Tusk, he was Poland's prime minister from 2007 to 2014, and he has a very dubious and very globalist. He's a member of the World Economic Forum. He's called a agenda contributor. He contributes to the agenda. He was also president of the European Council for several years, 2014, and then again, after he was prime minister, he was elected head of the European Council, and then re-elected for another couple of years in 2017. And Poland was the one dissenting vote, because he had committed so much scandals in Poland during his time as prime minister, and including the very dubious death of the president at that time, who was Kaczynski, who died in a plane crash in 2010. A Polish Air Force flight that went down, and considered to be the murder of President Kaczynski. And so when Tusk was in power, he basically barely investigated this, and the people literally revolted against him, because they believed that the Tusk administration was somehow implicated in this. And it's interesting, because then later we get Tusk getting the Charlemagne Prize dedication out of the EU, and he dedicates it to President Kaczynski. It was just like a spit in the eye. But there's many things I want to talk about here with Donald Tusk out of Poland. His grandfather, Joseph Tusk, was a Nazi collaborator in World War II. He was a member of the German Wehrmacht, where in Poland, those were the people who sided with Germany and were complicit in the rounding up of everybody that Germany wanted to exterminate, and also the takeover of Poland by Germany and allowing that to happen, very much like the Ukraine and what's grown up to be the Azov battalions now, but the Ukraine, Nazi collaborators. And this gets into kind of the whole thing that's bigger when we look at the Gog and Magog, out of the Bible, and where the Antichrist kingdom comes out of. It's very much interlaced here in this Polish, Ukraine, Eastern European situation. And it's not about the people who live there now, it's the ancestry of the people, that are ruling and controlling those areas. And so it's very interesting as we look at all these Nazi collaborators, as we look at huge amount of Jewish oligarchs and Russian oligarchs and all of these people controlling behind the scenes here in Ukraine, and all of the bankster Cartel Babylon that's backing them, all of Ukraine being bought up, being sold out the wazoo to Israeli oligarchs. The Mossad had 2,000 soldiers there fighting in Ukraine, just recently pulled back to Israel, exposing that they had been there. Israeli drones, Israeli guns, all of that. And of course, the U.S. Massively, really responsible for huge crimes against humanity, as all throughout the Donbass, there is the literal attack on civilians and on killing of civilians. And so, when we look at Gaza, it's so easy to say, oh, Gaza, that it's the extermination because it's this tiny sliver of a tiny piece of land, right? Gaza. And so you can see the obliteration of all those people, right? But it's been the same exact thing in Ukraine. Just as they're exterminating Christians in Gaza, there's like 600 Christians left, okay, in Gaza, some of the most ancient ancestral Christians. The same with Ukraine and the in that area of Russia. When you get into the Eastern Orthodox Church, the complete decimation by Zelensky, the aiming at targeting of Christians in the Donbass, and that being an important component here. As I, in future videos, we'll get more into like this Gog Magog situation. What is the Antichrist rollout coming from this area? It's important to just note that. And so I want to get more into Donald Tusk. So he comes from the Nazi ancestry there, and he seems to have been installed this time, beating out who was already put up by Duda, the president, Moravishki. I'm not saying it right, but I'm trying to remember how to say Polish names properly. Moraviki, we'll go with that. Who was the prime minister in November, okay, was the prime minister put up by Duda, was sworn in, but got the no confidence vote, okay, and this is the whole influence of Cartel Babylon and the World Economic Forum influencing this. So after swearing in on November 27th, Moraviki gets the no confidence vote, and basically said, if we get Tusk in, his plan and the sustainability and this Agenda 2050 crowd, who are supporting him, the party of Agenda 2050, they're saying that basically he's going to sell off all of Poland's national resources. He said the Baltic Sea, our national forests, all of this is going to go into this UN World Economic Forum agenda program to sacrifice all of our national interests. And then Donald Tusk was installed on December 13th, so just a few days ago, as now the third prime minister run that he's done, which has never happened before. This is after the collapse of communism in Poland in 1989. Now he's back in, and yeah. So basically, let's get further into it. And so, okay, there's a bit of a financial scam here that really was why he didn't win again after 2014. Because in 2009, there was this issue of this Amber Gold scandal. It was called the Amber Gold scandal, and it was this company called Amber Gold. And it was out of his hometown, or his hometown area in Dansk in northern Poland, where he's from. And this is a guy who self-describes himself as a hooligan. When he was younger, basically going out cruising for a bruising. That's literally what he said. Going out looking for a fight. Didn't have, any scruples, in his youth, and kind of rose to power, really through connections through his family. And so the Amber Gold scandal, which was exposed in 2012, the largest financial scandal in Poland since that fall of communism in 1989. And so Amber Gold was from 2009 to 2012. The founder, only known in documents that came out of the investigation as Marcin P. Okay, he hired Tusk's son, Michael. So Michael Tusk, he's kind of the Hunter Biden of Poland, right? He gets a job with Amber Gold with zero anything to do with finance or gold or anything, kind of like Hunter Biden with Burisma and CEFC and all of it. Same thing. The brand was Donald Tusk as prime minister. And did he get 10% for the big guy, just like Joe Biden? I don't know, because very little investigation was done after it, and it's where the Polish people really revolted. And so the fact that he could get in right now as prime minister, he was at negative polling numbers, very Joe Biden style, zero support, and magically comes in at the last minute as the prime minister, as they want to prop up the Ukraine war, demand NATO a membership for Ukraine, and demand that the West support this backing of the satanic control of Ukraine at the moment. And so what Amber Gold did is it offered really high interest rates for gold deposits, okay? And there were 50,000 investors, and 19,000 of them were cheated out of $230 million, okay, because it was a Ponzi scheme. It was a Ponzi scheme. They didn't have all of the gold. They didn't have it. The gold wasn't there. And so 19,000 people were cheated out of $230 million. And it was basically used as a massive money laundering outfit or a money cleaning outfit. So, you know, people would put their deposits in, it got cleaned, saying, you know, this transaction happened, and it went out the back door, clean money. So bad money from Cartel Babylon, economy of sin goes in, it comes out clean through this Amber Gold outfit. And Tusk's son never did jail time, never did anything for this. And we have to wonder, was there a 10% for the big guy there? You know, if it was $230 million that was fraudulently scammed out of these 19,000 people, 10% would be 23 million, right? What is it that Comer and the other oversight committee has found out? They know at least of $24 million in Biden crime family money to the big guy, 10% to the big guy. And so that would be kind of, you know, an even Steven there across the board if that were true, for entertainment purposes only, regarding Donald Tusk. And of course that was buried. We had, of course, 2009, this was going on. 2010, we get Kaczynski dead on the flight with the Polish Air Force, president dead, barely investigated. And then what we find out also is that during the Tusk Parliament, we had the Internal Intelligence Service and the National Bank of Poland, right? Does it sound familiar to what's going on with the investigations now with the FBI and the IRS? You know, there's been whistleblowers, everybody about Biden and the crime syndicates, all of the fraudulent bank transactions. Well, same here in Poland, the Internal Intelligence Service and the National Bank of Poland both reported to the Tusk administration that his son was involved in these things and that this was a Ponzi scheme, and they knew that this was going down. And not only that, but Amber Gold had no permit to execute banking activity whatsoever. It had no permit from the government to be a banking facility. I mean, 50,000 investors, 19,000 defrauded. The Financial Oversight Commission reported this to them right there in 2009. And this was as it was just jumping off and went crazy full bore for 3 years, stealing all this money as a money laundering operation. And so Amber Gold owned almost all of the shares of OLT Express Airlines, OLT Express. And that was a major airlines in Poland. And basically that was the employer of Michael Tusk. He worked for OLT Express Airlines. Again, reiterating, no experience in finance or gold. And so he was hired like Hunter by Burisma or any other company. And so, you know, as we look at like what's going on in the world here, and we look at this common theme and how all of these guys, this guy, Donald Tusk, he is a WEFer, he's a WEFer, and then he was the head of the EU Council for 2 terms, which is huge. Okay, this is basically this guy who gets to go and claim they're going to go full bore against Brexit, that full bore against Trump's USA, as he said at the time. This is a full-on globalist cartel member. I'm speaking to the choir here, but it's important to just kind of really understand as Europe goes on war footing and NATO being used as the impetus to try to drag, of course, the entire West into a world war with Russia. We need to look at this guy and how they're all captured. The reason I'm bringing the parallels with Biden is because they're captured the same way. Okay, they're doing the same stuff, and they're all captured. They're all in it, and they're all controlled by the spider web that keeps going up and up. And we know that that's real because they're working with the Bank of International Settlements to create this CBDC system, central bank digital currency system, with Georgieva, okay, out of the IMF, formerly head of the World Bank, where they're going to create this, and they're going to create this unified programmable ledger that's going to attempt to steal everyone's assets. And it's completely illegal. It's completely criminal. It's Cartel Babylon, but that's what they're going to try to do. So let's finish up here on Tusk and his son Michael. But back to Donald Tusk. A couple things. He was sorry. Okay. So he was elected despite, literally in the last few days, put into power as prime minister, even though massive negative approval in the polls, and by the polls, in the polls. And massive pushing LGBTQ stuff, pushing all the sustainability stuff, ERGs, all of it. And again, like I said, just this sudden change of Morawiecki being removed as prime minister at the last minute under a vote of no confidence. And in 2019, Tusk got the honorary doctorate at the University of Lviv, Ukraine, honorary doctorate. And he did this on the 5th anniversary of the Maidan coup. He gets his honorary doctorate on the anniversary of the Maidan coup, 2019, where basically, he is celebrated in Ukraine for all the work he's doing to support the Maidan coup. And this is, of course, the Nazis' takeover of Ukraine, backed by the U.S. military, controlled by the Blinkens and the Israeli oligarchs. And there's just a very interesting group of people here that are all in it together. And I also want to mention here before I finish up, and I'll come back more to Tusk and subsequent videos, but I want to mention Mark Brzezinski. And Mark Brzezinski is, of course, the son of Zbigniew Brzezinski, the orchestrator of so much of globalism. Also, we get Warning Mika, right, the sister. And Brzezinski, of course, was Kissinger's handler and creator, very intricately connected with Klaus Schwab and the creation of the World Economic Forum way back in the day, a massive architect of globalism. And he is Mark Brzezinski's father. And Mark Brzezinski is the current U.S. ambassador to Poland, right? And so we get the Polish in here. This is Brzezinski. This is the big new Brzezinski out of Poland. And this interconnection here with Jesuit societies, like Tusk, for instance, Donald Tusk, he's the member of several, like 5 Grand Orders of the Cross, all Jesuits, Jesuit societies, to deal with royalty, specifically interconnected with royalty. And this is in Norway, Ukraine, Georgia, which they're trying to put up as NATO, to be a new NATO member as well, Japan, and Peru. Okay, Grand Order of the Cross, that is Donald Tusk. But back to Mark Brzezinski. He is Brzezinski Strategies LLC. He's a CFR member, Council on Foreign Relations member, and a Trilateral Commission member. I mean, that's not surprising considering who he is. But then he also ran something called Machina Capital Management, intricately connected with Poland, where he was managing director, and he led what is the ERG investing development of that capital management firm. So pioneering ERGs, the whole system of stakeholders, and basically destroying profits in order to create this new economic system, World Economic Forum style, where basically instead of profits, you get the only way you can make money is by funding things that don't work. Okay, all of the fake stuff around fake energy, fake finance, fake woke human rights, all this baloney, not built on free market, capitalism or economy at all whatsoever. And it's the new, modern money theory that is basically leading us all off the edge of a cliff into total debt enslavement, because people need to understand when the CBDCs come through, that's not going to be free money. Okay, even if you have a good social credit score, okay, you're borrowing money just like fiat currency. You're borrowing that $1 bill from the central bank, right? And it's, President Trump needs to know and remember that Nixon, what he did by getting us off the gold standard, okay, was only an executive order to put us on fiat currency. Trump could revoke that executive order and put the United States back on gold standard immediately, and literally just shut down the Federal Reserve, which is not federal and has no reserves, as we know, and shut down the World Bank control of anything to do with our assets. Okay, we are a sovereign nation, and this is all globally run. Everything with the World Bank and all the central banks, it's globally run, and all of our assets through trickery that they've managed to get away with has basically put all our reserves, all of our assets owned by creditors. Okay, secured creditors that are global, that are centered in Brussels and Switzerland, and they're the ones that, in their minds, okay, they're geniuses in their own minds, they think they own all of our assets because they tricked us, okay, into leveraging debt on things or buying things outright, signing contracts, all right, where they created a new thing called a security entitlement built into those contracts. And I'm going to get into that for a second. I just want to finish up with Mark Brzezinski here. Sorry. All right. So what I'm going to finish up here with Mark Brzezinski is that he is, the U.S. ambassador to Poland. He's pushing all of this UN, World Economic Forum stuff with Poland. The ambassador, since 2021, he attempted to get in there in 2015. Trump yanked him out. And he was on Clinton's National Security Council. He was director for Russia on that Security Council, Eurasia, and the Balkans. He was Obama's ambassador to Sweden, okay, dealing with the whole invasion of Sweden, ambassador there. And something interesting I'll have to look into, the White House Arctic Executive Steering Committee. The Arctic Executive Steering Committee, I'm sure that's about stealing resources for global control there. And his brother, Ian Brzezinski, is a military expert. That's all we know about him. I have to look more into that. And so this is interesting to just see that we get Mark Brzezinski, son of the most influential, maybe globalists of all, and population reduction guy, just total steal the assets for the elite guy. His son is the ambassador, okay, to Poland right now, working on this whole rollout of World War III now with the inserted WEF control guy, who was literally the head of the European Council for 2 consecutive terms. And that's who's dealing with what's the rollout here in this NATO threat to bring Ukraine into NATO and provoke a world war. Okay. And so I'm going to finish up here with just a little mention of the security entitlement situation I just mentioned. There was a great documentary that came out. I was turned on to it by Mike Adams out of naturalnews.com. And this documentary is called, let me just grab it here. The Great Taking, okay, by David Webb, who was, he was in acquisitions and mergers and went to business school and then rose through the ranks, went to Oppenheimer and Company, almost went to Rothschild banking, ended up in a huge merger and acquisitions firm, and then came to see that there was massive stealing going on and that they were lying to everybody about what was going on with assets by changing the laws secretly in all 50 states. TheGreatTaking.com, you can watch a documentary. You can also watch it on CHD TV, Child's Health Defense TV. You can watch it there. And you can also download the free PDF of his book on TheGreatTaking.com. And so what he found out is that they have created something called a security entitlement, which they wrote into the changes to the Uniform Commercial Code, which they did across all 50 states. So they avoided the federal government by going state by state, okay, with something called the depository. Wait, what was the name of that? Who was in charge of that? Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I say the right thing. All right, I might not have it right in front of me right here, but basically he said the CIA ran this operation of creating what was called the Depository Trust Corporation that was then relocated, I think, in Brussels, and where it was all interconnected with the creation of the standing of a security entitlement written into changes in the Uniform Commercial Code. And the security entitlement, basically the simple way he put it, and I'm not going to get into it much more than I am because I'm not a great person talking about financial, intricacies. But you can watch a documentary and see for yourself. But what he basically said was, like, if you had bought a car in cash, in full, at a dealership, right? And that dealership has leveraged debt with a bank. And even though you bought the car with cash in full, they actually get to use that sale as an asset, okay, on their asset list for what they're worth when they go to the bank. And so that sale is recorded and reported to the bank as an asset for what they're worth. And if they were to go insolvent and were to go bust, basically the bank, or really who receives all the, who is the secured debtor on that, which is a giant wormhole of how much it goes through derivatives and goes back and back and back to banks and banks and banks to who actually owns that real debt, and who actually owns that dealership, okay, who gets back and back to an actual secured creditor. They own all the assets that ran through that dealership. Even if you bought it outright, your car, it means that that secured creditor believes in this system that they created in its completely Cartel Babylon economy of sin, absolute usury, absolute, number one sin, okay, of usury, that they own your car that you bought outright because that people you purchased it from went insolvent, and that vehicle, okay, that sold and that income they made, okay, was an asset that they recorded as part of their debt. So it's all about getting out of any kind of leveraged debt if you're in it. And it's about basically just decoupling big time with banks in general. Okay. I've been trying to talk about this, and there's got to be more discussion, more ways to get out. I want to mention again, verifiedgoldbacks.com. I have nothing to do with it, but I like this idea of verified goldbacks where there's gold infused to bills, the cloth bills, that we can trade that has real gold in it, and that's been verified and proven by people like Mike Adams with his, amazing lab that he can do all that in. But we need to understand that, that this unified programmable ledger that I've been talking about over and over out of the Bank of International Settlements, that's interconnected with this, that they are going through this massive, huge amount of, 54 trillion plus of all of these assets, okay, really because they want to find out the bigs, the elites, these, handful of the ones who own the trillions, what assets they can believe are theirs that they can come after once the whole collapse happens. And this guy, Dave Webb, seems to think it's rapidly coming to a close here. That the dollar empire collapse is happening, hugely manufactured through the printing bubble, and then the interest rate hikes that are making insolvencies just on the verge of total collapse. And so I don't mean to be all, sad and whatever here as we go into Christmas. It's just to realize, the time was 3 years ago, right? To get out of it. Don't be part of any of the big banks. If you are leveraged in debt, do your best to get out of it. Try to get out of any contracts that you can, because they're planning to steal everything, right? And they're, biggest lies, biggest steal. That's their specialty. It's all fake and a fraud, all right? And what it gets down to is that we have to resist it. And we have to say no. What would have happened if in the 1930s, America rose up and said, you're not taking all our stuff. You're not taking it. It's not going to happen. Now it's that on mega steroids, and it's the entire world. Okay. And we need to absolutely resist. We need to absolutely resist this bankster fraud, and the Fed, right? Arrest the banksters like Iceland did. Iceland, with their beautiful volcano spewing CO2 into the atmosphere right now, arrested the banksters, and that's really cool. I also found out a really cool Christmas tradition that Iceland has where people give books to each other for Christmas Eve. It's a Christmas Eve present where you give books and people read the books on Christmas Eve. I think that's really neat. And so I'm going to end it there. I want to say thank you, of course, to my people who I sell C60 Evo to support them, and they support me. And C60 Evo is an incredible antioxidant, one of the most amazing formulas for cleaning out your mitochondria, right? It really gets deep into the cell to fight inflammation, to fight the 5G crud. If we're going to be on rolled out, supercharged, magnetic, electric roadways, you'll want your C60 Evo to help clean out you and protect you from the mega Gs. But c60evo.com/YAFTV for 10% off. People who support the channel get 15% off with a different code and a different link sent to you automatically if you support the channel. All I can say is, again, c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off, and then you get a separate code for 15% for people who support the channel. And as we wind down here before Christmas, I'm going to see you again before Christmas for sure. I should be back up on Thursday. And hopefully we'll have more of a focus on, more of, how do we get in deep, with the divine, with God, with Christ, and really uplift our spirits. We're in this, we're putting on our full armor. We're really charging towards, the gates of hell here. They think that we're stuck here with them, like we're the useless eaters, the carbon polluter breathers. They think that's us, but actually they're stuck here with us. And I think we need to flip the script, right? They're stuck here with us. Okay, we have the power of God. We have the full armor of God. We have the ability we are called upon by Christ, okay, to be the healers of the sick, to be miracle workers, to be casters out of sin, right? They're stuck here with us. And it's just a perception deception, as David Icke says. It's just a mind game. Its biggest lies, the reversals upon reversals. What Cartel Babylon does with the economy of sin, the biggest deception is their lies. Their lies, right? They're deceivers and liars. And that's why once we realize our power and we realize our God-given likeness, okay, then we flip the script and we realize, oh, no, actually, you're stuck here with me. You're stuck here with me, and I have God, right? And we're here to chase out the demons, and we're here to celebrate the beautiful birth of Jesus Christ, okay? And that's all I could wish for you, is that you feel the Holy Spirit just rising in you in these days, in these holy days, and that you, spread that love. Because when you give somebody a tiny bit of hope, it's exponential, okay? It's exponential. You give somebody a tiny bit of help, it's exponential. And so give those tiny bits and then grow on that and grow on it and give what you can and be generous with your fellow humanity, with your love, with your time, with your treasure and your truth, okay? We can do this together. They're stuck here with us. And we have God and we are good. And so I'll see you next time, everybody. You are free. Merry Christmas.